Hello, I'm Lee McGuire, and I'm here with Dr. Doohi Lee talking about the Diamond Matrix. Welcome. I'm really excited to cover this part of the Diamond Matrix.
Great.
Let's talk about emotional health. How do you address emotional health?
Well, I tell you, this was actually one of the more difficult areas for me. And when I was forming the structure of Diamond Matrix, the 7 three-dimensional structure, that was the last piece. It was kind of interesting. I had everything put together, and I kept thinking, there's something missing. Something missing. And this is a true story. Literally, when I was taking a shower, in the middle of the
Best
shower.
ideas.
Boom,
best time for ideas.
Popped into my head. It's like, of course, you dummy. You left out the most important part. The idea of emotional and spiritual health. Not just emotional, but spiritual part. And this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And often they don't realize they're struggling with it. And it has such a huge, profound effect on so many other components of all of our lives.
Do you think that you maybe didn't think of that because men and women approach this differently, or is it really all the same?
Could be. I mean, I'm probably a typical, emotionally stunted male.
I was wondering. I didn't want to say that, but
okay.
It crossed my mind.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I have no problems, talking about that. But certainly, I think that is one aspect. There's maybe some, obviously, sex difference of how we approach
Men don't
them.
a lot of times like to address that part, or maybe even embarrassed to feel that they're emotional.
Yeah.
But it's really normal,
just
right?
as important for men as it is for women.
Of
It's
course.
Just, we're human beings, and this affects all of us. And people go through, different levels of grief and all the kind of things. We can talk about that.
Sure.
But we're talking about different pieces, different components of the Diamond Matrix. There are 7 parts, and they're all interrelated. And the emotional part almost forms as a glue. And this is really sort of the foundational piece that actually sets the tone for so many things. Certain types of exercise enhance your emotional well-being, and vice versa. If you're healthy emotionally, you actually have more energy to be able to do different things. So there's a complete interrelationship there. And the way I approach the emotional health really is to allow somebody to find their own emotional tone.
And you're talking about, whenever you do that, you really have to quit looking in, and you have to be able to look out and think of others. And is that part of what you're saying, and how you respond to the world, your effect on the world?
Exactly. But before you can have an effect on the world, you have to have a solid core of who and what you are.
You mean an understanding?
Well, understanding and acceptance, right? And being able to project that power onto the rest of the world.
Acceptance is a very hard part of that.
It is.
People have probably a more difficult time accepting who they are and being happy with that, instead of understanding their own uniqueness.
Exactly.
And that so much comes from your spirituality, and your whole approach to the world, your attitude. Thank you for inspiring us, Dr. Lee. That's so interesting, and I'm really interested to hear more. We're going to take a deeper dive into emotional health through the Diamond Matrix.
The idea of achieving emotional stability, harmony, and spiritual balance, and having all those kind of things work and be synced internally is critical to how we maintain ourselves in terms of our sense of who we are, what we are, and how we actually fit into this whole world. It really is even something very simple as, how do you accept yourself? How do you see yourself? What is your concept of who you are and what you are? And what is literally a relationship of you with yourself? If you actually sit there and think about it, you have to kind of figure out, okay, how do I live with myself? There are some people who just this is what I do, this is the kind of stuff that I do, and sometimes it drives me crazy, but I still do these things, and drives my wife or my kids or my friends crazy, but somehow I can't sometimes help what it is. And you have to kind of think about, okay, why is that? What is it internally that is driving you towards certain behaviors that are not necessarily the most productive and most beneficial or most popular for that matter? And then why is it still there? But I think it's really important to figure out the idea of center. Center has to do with, comes in from your heart, and the idea of internal balance of sense of who you are, what you are, and how you actually find balance in that, and finding harmony in how you behave and how you interact with yourself and with other people. And this is a very difficult area for a lot of people, and certainly it's, I'm no exception, to sit there and be that reflective of yourself and to accept the things certain features. We all have different features, both good and bad, and accept them for what they are, and maybe improve on the things that you think are lacking, and continue to develop and further aspects that you think are positive. And that really is part of the overall growth, I think, that we go through as we mature and become much more further developed and actualized human beings. And that process is never ending. Because we're continue to be alive, and we see different things. There are different aspects of what we do, different experiences, maybe different interactions with different people, the work that we do, and the different accomplishments that we have. All these things go into the idea of actualization. And once you reach a certain level of actualization, let's say, something else will happen. I'm sure, because we're still alive. Another thing will happen, and you realize, wow, there's still more to do. There's another step, another step, another step. So that's why I think that idea of self-actualization is continuous, unending, evolving process. But the whole idea is to get from your basic substance and existing level of very basic fundamental ideas of survival all the way to different levels of achievement to reach the idea of self-actualization. Most of us, I think, at one point think about, God, I'm just a small person in this world. And there's a huge universe out there. You got all the stars out there. What can I do as a single person? Is there anything that I can do? Is there anything that I do that actually makes a difference? And we know just from stories we read about various different individuals who have started out as like all of us, just as a single person, but go on to accomplish incredible things. And where does that come from? Where does the strength and the drive come from to be able to achieve the kind of things that some people have? Well, I think it comes from the idea of finding balance and optimization of your emotions and your spirituality, and gaining strength from that, and feeling the center, and then driving from there, getting the driving force that enables you to move forward and accomplish different things. Okay, and even something as simple as exercise. And I just talked about in another talk about lifestyle. Setting small goals. Running 5 miles, get something. It's not necessarily small for some people, but that's a goal. That's actually an accomplishment you want to achieve. But you need that emotional strength, and you need that spirituality to say, okay, I'm going to do this. I have the strength, and I have the strength of the will to achieve this. And from achieving that, you can go on to achieve the next goal and next goal. But that's where it all starts, is from the inside, the core sense of who you are and what you are.